episode 43 of Thoughts, Action, Success. I'm going to talk about I think I can. It is one thing to want to develop and change, but how do you actually do it? I'm going to delve deep into the techniques available to make real change in your success. To get past their fears and self-doubt, to live a life of confidence, success with my Reboot for Women coaching program. When our computers stop working, what do? We hit Control-Alt-Delete. This program is the equivalent to this reset for us as women, and to start to get the life of your dreams that you so deserve. Hey beautiful, welcome to this episode of the show. I'm super excited to share this with you, so why not? Let's get started. I think I can, puffed the little locomotive, and put itself in front of the great heavy train. As it went on, the little engine kept bravely puffing faster and faster. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Then as it neared the top of the grade, it had so discouraged the larger engines, it went more slowly, but still kept saying, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. It reached the top by dint of great effort, and then went on down the grade, congratulating itself. That's from I Thought I Could, from the little engine that could by Waddy Piper. So it's well known that humans are creatures of habit. Habitual thoughts are the precursors that drive emotions. So if you want to change the aspects of your life that aren't working for you, you need to start by changing the thoughts behind them. In this episode of Thoughts, Action, Success, I'm going to share with you what I've discovered from 5 specialists that I've studied who have helped me personally move on from unhelpful thinking to become the person I was meant to be. So first up, your thinking patterns. Dr. Sarah Elman, who's a psychologist and author of the book, Change Your Thinking, she uses cognitive behavioral therapy to help people identify, challenge, and modify their thoughts that ultimately lead to upsetting emotions. She says that self-awareness is a key component of cognitive behavioral therapy, and that we have thoughts constantly, but many of them may be distorted, unrealistic, excessively negative, or even threat-focused. Most of the time, we're actually not even aware of our thoughts, so that when we think, it just feels proof, it feels real, it feels like how it should be. So to get started with changing your thinking, you need to notice that when you're feeling bad, and then step back and track that back to what thoughts you've been having. When you feel depressed or anxious or distressed, you tend to have a lot more thoughts. Those thoughts tend to go into overdrive, and then they go around in circles. So most of the time, you're not even aware of the process. Behavioral therapy, it teaches you to take a step back and treat your thoughts rather than them being reality. Rather than assuming that the thoughts themselves are true. It just gives you the space to do that. So when you're anxious, you end up catastrophizing. And then you even more painful. To adapt. So if you can think adaptively, you're more open to problem solving, and then you're more willing to take appropriate steps to actually deal with the actual situation and the actual facts of it and what's in front of you. One coping strategy that I've found really good and recommend to my clients is to actually write down your thoughts. So when you do this, you're sometimes able to identify that your thinking is actually quite unreasonable. you're being inflexible, or you're being too black and white. So then you can dispute or reframe those thoughts into an alternative, more balanced view, which then leads to helping you find the solutions to overcome these thoughts, overcome the problem, and work through it without it just overwhelming you and becoming so distressing. So, for example, if someone looks bored, you might make the assumption that they're bored or critical of you. That's what we call personalizing. But if you use this process and you reframe those thoughts, you might realize that you're taking things personally, but not actually even about you. Similarly, if you have a view of someone who's contemptible, the person changes their behavior, it changes the actual dynamics and reduces a lot of the tension. So look inside yourself first to change the situation. Alternatively, if you feel sad or depressed, get involved in some act, like maybe cleaning out a drawer or getting in the kitchen, preparing a meal if that helps, or maybe going to a yoga class. It can really lift your mood. It may be really difficult when you feel bad, but if you take that breaking up that cycle, breaking up that thought process. This behavioral strategy is particularly important for dealing with anxiety because anxiety is a primitive response. Sometimes the logical stuff, it just isn't powerful enough. You need to confront your fears and learn experientially that you can cope. Next up, I recommend that you be your own best listener. So focusing on listening to what your body knows about any given issue. So we use that term felt sense. And I learned this from focusing facilitator Leona Dawson. If you think about the brain as being a map of your neurons, you also have a parallel set of neurons around your heart and your belly. Really tap into the wisdom of this body brain. So during a focusing session, I teach my clients to bring their attention inwards and take a moment to just listen and be curious. I get them to ask themselves, what is it about this issue? And then often thoughts will come first, then the expectations about what should and shouldn't happen. And then you start slowly dropping down into the space between your heart and your belly. And then I get them to ask, what else is there about that? We work together to resolve these. And you might get images or physical sensations, or often people even get a symbol. Or perhaps it reminds them of a time when you may even want to express yourself using your whole body. So really in tune with yourself. Listen to what your body's telling you. So focusing can be something that we can teach you to do alone, or you can do it with a coach or a partner. So when your body reveals its inner knowledge, you say whatever feeling, sensation, or image back to yourself. Or if you have a partner, you say it out loud and your partner repeats it back to you. In this process, you just get going until you've got a really better understanding of how you're living with your experience. You may get a sense of relief or a real insight. You don't actually decide to change anything. Things just start to change from deep within, from the inside out. You may notice that you don't react in the same way that you used to, for example. So cognition is only one part of it. Thinking alone would have come up with something very patent and familiar, but this is more creative, more holistic. So it often takes more than one focusing session to get to the bottom of an issue, but each time a different aspect will surface. So in your first session, we often only get an understanding of what the triggers are, and how you feel about them. It's that first layer. You may also be getting used to being present with yourself. It's a totally different feeling and your experience, because in our culture and our busy lives and the way we live, we often don't sit with ourselves. And we just don't take that time to really just switch in and to listen to our body. Although focusing can appear like meditation from the outside, it's not like meditation at all because you're actually having a conversation with yourself. You're not going mad, you're just listening and talking and learning from within. Focusing can also help you move on when you're feeling stuck. So you're holding on to issues or insisting, I've resolved this. And it can take a lot of energy out of you. Sometimes you think you've got things sorted and then something crops up, something happens, and you're caught off guard because it's back again, it's returned. Things come back like that because they've still got some hold on you. They've got some kind of value within you. So there's a way of using focusing to listen for the forward movement in that. Where some people talk about situations as being negative, we consider them as being situations where the forward movement has stopped. We remove the negative aspect of it. Another thing we need to look at is treating your imbalance. So homeopathy is based on the principle that like cures like, which means that substances that would normally produce symptoms in a healthy person can be used in minute amounts to treat someone who is ill with similar symptoms. The remedies are potentized so that curative properties are enhanced and toxicity is removed. Homeopath Frank Sheffield says differences between potentized remedies and plain water can be picked up using electron microscopes and luminous fluorescence. So even though chemically the two are the same, they are detectable differences. Homeopathy is a holistic system of medicine. Sometimes you're being managed by your emotions and your characteristics rather than actually being in control of them. So what we do with this sort of approach is we match up the mental state with what's going on physically and then find a remedy that covers that cluster of symptoms. It's seen as being a way to affect one imbalance so the body isn't separated into components. So just to give an example of how this works, is there's a remedy, lechesis, that comes from a snake poison. But it's been prepared homeopathically, so there are no traces of poison in it. It will treat extreme forms of jealousy. But the person who needs that particular remedy will also be displaying other symptoms. They tend to talk a lot, and as they get older, they can develop cardiovascular problems. They can also be sensitive to the sun and get swelling in their throats, so they don't like wearing tight collars. Another well-known remedy is one for anxiety, and it's called arsenicum. It's prepared from arsenic, and it's for people who are obsessive about things being in the proper place and clean. If they can have that orderly environment, it then relieves their anxiety. But they also tend to have physical problems such as burning pain throughout their body that's relieved by warm drinks. They suffer from insomnia and wake up at night with panic attacks, sometimes often between the time of midnight and 2 a.m. There are lots of other remedies for jealousy and anxiety, as well as for other emotional states. Manufactured combination remedies, they can be bought over the counter and can be helpful, but unless it's a remedy that matches your actual cluster of symptoms, you'll tend to palliate for a period of time, but you will always need it. If a deep acting prescription is made, one that treats not only your anxiety, for example, but all the other symptoms, eventually you will get to the point where you don't need the remedy at all. The prescription matches the overall imbalance. We call that a constitutional prescription, and it has a curative effect. Another thing I look at and have studied is personal excellence. So this is neuro-linguistic program, and that's the study of human excellence, and it's a way to identify that works with you. I've learned some of my NLP stuff, and I'm certified in NLP, and studied NLP mind coach Mark Holland. And I'll share with you, it involves the studying the internal representations of thoughts. Because every thought you have has pictures, sounds, feelings, smells, and tastes. So you have this information coming through your five senses, and then you delete, distort, and generalize that information based on your beliefs, your values, your habits, and attitudes about life. So through my study, I've realized that in order to have a phobia about something, you've got to be focusing on having a bad outcome. When you're thinking in negative ways or feeling depressed or sad, it's about what you're focusing on, and then you identify with it. So instead of saying to you, why do you feel sad? I would talk to my clients and I would say, how do you feel sad? And identify what it is that you do when you're feeling sad. To do this, we use what we call modalities, and that is pictures, feelings, and sounds. So let me explain it a bit further. So say you get a picture, then we'll go into submodalities. Is this the picture colour or black and white? Framed or panoramic? Moving or still? Close or far away? Big or small? Do you actually see yourself in it? To feel an intense, powerful emotion, you've really got to associate that feeling. You've got to look through your own eyes, seeing what you see, hearing what you hear, and feeling what you feel. Most people have psychic stress because they're focusing on what they don't want. The mind can't process a negative. If I said to you, don't think of a red tree, what do you automatically think of? So to really reduce association, use the picture. There no. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. So, what if good? Think of someone you love. When you're your mind look problem. In order for your system to hold true, easily yourself because you can't view yourself objectively. So once there can be an objective view, the therapist then can ask appropriate questions. So say, for example, you have a phobia. You might be stating a belief that has no logic whatsoever involved. It's purely an emotional state and it no longer serves a purpose. So where your belief system or behaviors are inappropriate for whatever's going on around you, hypnosis can really help to balance that out. For example, maybe you're in a situation which caused a car accident and you came to me 10 years on and the car's been changed, but you're still angry with yourself. I'll lay a bet that that anger is not just based on that car accident. Somewhere along the line, you've learned that it's appropriate to be angry. It might be related to a need for perfection. You aren't supposed to make mistakes, and if you do, you're in trouble. Whatever it is, you have a belief that supports that behavior, and hypnosis can look for what the underpinning belief is. So hypnosis and meditation, they're basically the same state, but how it's used is quite different. The classic method that you'll probably know of is the regression style. So that's where the hypnotherapist takes you back to the first time that you experienced a belief to get you to really understand it. Once you understand it, that this time was a childhood thing and that you're now an adult. It doesn't necessarily need to be there because it doesn't serve the same purpose. Hypnotherapists also use progression in much the same kind of way. They'll take you to a time in the future, for instance. If you believe that something will be resolved at a given time, perhaps after something else has happened. In other cases, there is no timeline involved. It can be a development issue where there is no specific causation. So once the actual underpinning relief is revealed, hypnotherapists put you into a state of hypnosis and use ideomotor questioning. So this is the questioning that elicits yes and no responses automatically from deep in the subconscious mind. You know what you're doing. There's no question, but you allow it to occur. It's rather like when you touch type, or you get to the stage when you drive your car. You're not always aware of how you did it because your subconscious mind is doing it and your conscious mind is off thinking of something else. It's like that muscle memory. That's how ideomotor questioning works. We ask it starts to draw your attention to the issue. And when that's done, techniques can be applied to help dislodge that belief system. Filled by so much emotional and physical, you want to make sure it's firing up something that's going to be healing and positively creative, as well as bring a sense of connection in your relationships. Why would you waste energy on anything else? If you got a lot out of this episode, I'd love you to subscribe to the show, share it with others so that we can inspire others, and join me on my mission to inspire and educate as many women as possible to live their best life. You could come over and follow me on Instagram at kirstiejohnston.coach and tell me what takeaways you've had from this episode. What things have you tried? You're confronted when those triggers have set you off. Have you tried thinking of them speaking like Mickey Mouse or with their clown nose? And before I go, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for wanting to be the best and happiest version of yourself, and for showing up for you today. Let me tell you this, if no one else does today, you rock. Until next time, remember, you deserve to live the life of your dreams, and don't let your inner critic or anyone else tell you otherwise.